Good evening and welcome to The Square. Tonight is a special edition all-women panel in celebration of International Women's Month. We are going to focus on a couple of things such as gender equality in the workplace, as well as balancing life careers for women. We are also going to touch on economic empowerment specifically for women in the rural areas. My name is Diana Mpisi. I am the host of The Square. And on this special edition, we are joined by our guest. I'll start with you, Dr. Monique Nsanzabaganwa, who is the Deputy Governor at the National Bank of Rwanda. Thank you for honoring our invitation.
Welcome.
We are also joined by Antoinette Uwimana. Antoinette is the Country Director for Women International Rwanda. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Dana.
The Square is usually myself and Charleston Ephraim, but we ask them to kindly and graciously sit this one out. But also part of the Square resident panelist is Berna Namata. Berna, always a pleasure to have you.
Thank you. We asked them to step aside.
Yes, for tonight. We are also joined by our other guest, Angel Mutoni, who is a Rwandan music artist and poet. Angel, thank you for coming onto the show.
Thank you for having me.
Great. Before we kick off the show, usually we touch into major issues of the week, and I'll start with you, Berna. Any issues you'd like to highlight before we start our conversation?
Yes, I've been following this hashtag about my my always experience. Basically, what's happening? Kenyan women are protesting. Always, always. For those who don't know, is a brand that women use. Pads.
Sanitary pads.
Yes, sanitary pads.
Yes.
And what is interesting is that for a very long time, I mean, almost everyone knows Ores, yeah? And because it's big, no one tends to question, you know, what they do. And for some reason, suddenly when these women start talking about their experiences with Ores, it becomes clear that even if it's a big brand, there are issues, you know. That's one.
So what issues, for instance? Like toxic shock syndrome?
No,
or,
no,
okay.
no. Some of the women are complaining that they've gotten rashes. They're getting complications anyway because they're using Ores. Now, Ores has put out a statement, as expected, saying they're trying to investigate, but they are very confident of the quality of pads they put on the market. But for me, the interesting bit is on the quality side, because usually when you have a big brand, no one seems to pay attention to what they produce because it's a brand. Now, what we're seeing with my Ores experience is that actually we need to question. Just because you're Ores doesn't mean everything you do is quality. Yeah.
Interesting. Well, we're going to dive into this conversation, and we're really asking ourselves, can women have it all? Can you be a professional mother, a professional employee?
It's true.
A professional mother, sister, and wife, and all these things. So this is what we're here to discuss, amongst other things. But our first question is to do with gender equality in the workplace. And I'll address it to you first, Dr. Monique, before the rest of the panel can also weigh in. So, you know, the statistics, the facts for Rwanda, the numbers look good. In Rwanda, we have women representation in parliament at 61%. We have in cabinet at 50%. So these are achievable, recognized achievements, but there's also a general acceptance that more that needs to be done. And data shows that women are on an average in Rwanda paid less than men at 13%. And I want to hear from you, Dr. Monique, in your experience, what are some of the challenges in ensuring gender equality in the workplace, and what have you done in your capacity to address these issues?
Thank you, Diana. Maybe to put that gender gap into perspective,
yes.
You can have it for two reasons or two types of gender gap. One is in absolute terms. You have cases where some employers actually do pay some women less than they pay men for the same job. But you can also have a case where women are not good negotiators of the pay package, especially for institutions like the private sector or otherwise where you don't have these salaries set. When it comes to government, we have rather a relative kind of gender gap in relative terms, because we tend to have really grades, and you know, if you are at this position, then you'll be being paid same as your male counterpart. But when you look at the average wage bill per capita that goes to women, you find it's lower, just because women tend to occupy lower kind of level of positions. It's a challenge that is pertaining to our cultural norms and stuff. Some initial conditions, like unlike today, where you have parity in primary, secondary school, we're still seeing gaps in tertiary education. But even then, when you have really same chance, you tend to have women being less ambitious to uptake some positions. Like in our case, in our institution, the central bank, you tend to find that when you put up an advert for economists, you tend to really not see many women come for those positions. Not because they were not performing well at university, but maybe because by that time, I don't know, they got married, or they are looking for, I don't know, other jobs. Maybe they think the central bank is not there. They cannot actually fit there. So you find those challenges, really, of really looking or finding candidates. But also when it comes to promotions, because in the pipeline you tend to have less women by number. When it comes to promotions, it gets even lesser and lesser. Yeah, some surveys show that women tend to really relinquish some of those opportunities, because maybe they find it too demanding or too much exposure. So we still have to deal with that kind of mindset, or settling for less, women being less ambitious in some cases. So it's not like a generalized thing, but those are really the issues we tend to find in the workplace. And for us, what we are trying to do in our institution, generally is being deliberate about addressing this gender gap. It starts by knowing, actually, if you have it, and where do you have it, and why do you have it. So you start really interrogating the numbers, the facts, and you even go beyond facts. Because here, gender equality, I would wish to differentiate it from gender parity. We might not have gender parity because of so many reasons, including the ones I have mentioned, but you ought to have gender equality. That means whatever number you have of men and women, they ought to have the same rights, access to the same opportunities, and also you have to have gender equity. It's like, how do you really facilitate those who have experienced some kind of conditions that really are keeping them down, to make sure that they can improve and you create opportunities. It can be affirmative action, or it can be just really challenging them and being deliberate on encouraging them. So we have, for instance, undertaken the Gender Equality Seal, which is a national program promoted by the Gender Monitoring Office in partnership with the UNDP. And we are one of the few public institutions that are undergoing that program. So it starts by assessing where you are, be it in terms of workforce, but also in terms of your policies and your processes, and how you impact your clients, like the public. And you interrogate that against some benchmarks, and you see where gaps are. Then you come up with a plan of action of how you can improve on those gaps. Yeah.
Actually, out of the companies, the institutions that with this gender seal that you're talking about, there are 38 companies so far. But public institutions, it's Central Bank of Rwanda and Rwanda Development Board. So we are hoping that more will take up this initiative.
Yeah,
Yes.
hope so.
Dr. Antoinette, gender equality in the workplace, what are some of the challenges you experienced and what have you done to address them in your capacity?
I agree with Dr. Monique that some of the challenges, of course, is the capacity of negotiating for women, but also some people still think that women cannot deliver efficiently in senior position. This is a challenge.
It's a mindset.
It's a
people still
mindset
have.
that
Yes.
maybe in some jobs, some types of job or some senior position, women cannot really deliver as men. So this is really a challenge. The skills of the women, of course, and also the confidence and trust in themselves, because women have to value what they are and what they are capable of doing. So I think it's a challenge there. We need also to think about the environment of work. It's not like there is little flexibility in the work environment, for example, of working mothers. And also childcare is a bit difficult for women, career women. And as you know, childcare is very expensive, for example. So women are balancing between the care of the children, work and other things. So those are, I think, constraints to women to really work safely in all like in private companies, but also in the public sector. Regarding Women for Women International, we really have a very, very different situation. We have 49 staff, and 69% of them are women. And in all levels of the structure of the organization. So actually into the senior position, we have 7 managers, and 6 of them are women. Last time we had 2 men, but the replacement, we got a very, very competitive woman, and now it's really majority of the senior position are occupied by women. Not because we discriminate men, but because we give opportunities to women, and we do our recruitment in a transparent way so that women feel that if they come, they can be hired. Since I joined 5 years ago, I think we have already employed 3 women, new managers, into the senior position. We also done like encouraging staff and training them to say, look, you need to develop yourself. No one is going to develop yourself. Training them in management or technical, and say, you are open. You can go even look for other jobs outside. And this gives them confidence. And also seeing like women into senior position, also they say, okay, if this one has managed, I can also do that. Really, role modeling is also very, very important, so that women say, okay, if this one has managed, if this one has managed, I can also do. So regarding salaries, we have good, it's an NGO, so definitely we have like good salary structures, very clear, and during salary adjustment, we do also market survey, which inform how we adjust salaries. So we normally pay the same amount of money to any similar job. So there is really the policy of equal pay. I was thinking maybe to improve that, we can also plan into our capacity building plan for staff to think about training on negotiation. I'm sure if women are really confident and can negotiate better, we will see those salary raising. I asked just my colleague this evening, a man who is on board of Women for Women, how do you feel when you see that we are majority at Women for Women? And he was laughing. He told me, you know, I'm very happy. I'm very proud because I know I'm working for a women organization, and seeing women empowered and occupying those posts make me proud. But not because they occupy those jobs, but because they are capable. It's based on their capabilities of doing. So I can tell you that outside here we have very strong, powerful ladies. It's very surprising. So if you really open, and if people open their mind to really give the opportunities to women, we have talent. And we need to continue encouraging women not to fear, but to try and go and compete. That's what I can say.
Angel, Bernard, before you weigh in, I'd like to, Angel. So you've been you started off as a poet, I think 8 years ago, and you've grown in that space to become a very, well-known local artist in Rwanda, and also I think in the region. So what are some of the challenges you've experienced in this industry, and what are some of the things you've done to address or overcome these challenges?
Well, like you said, I started off as a poet and then became an artist, a musician, and now I'm kind of going into the business world of it.
Okay.
Well, actually, I am. But when I started off as an artist, the thing is, I always say this because they always ask me, I am a girl a young woman that raps, that sings and all of that. And in Rwanda, as we know, there are not many artists that are women or that are, we don't have, compared to our neighboring countries anyways. And so it was always a thing about, so what are your challenges as a girl, as a woman, and for me personally at the time, it was kind of, it was distracting because it makes you realize, okay, they're seeing me as just a woman and not the artist that I am. And so, but as I started to get into the business and realize that this is something that's actually big and that's something that I can be proud of myself for accomplishing, and that not many young women get the opportunity to do, it kind of opened my eyes to the world of other people's struggles or challenges, because for me, I came into the music business knowing what my vision was and what I wanted to be as an artist. And so I never really faced too many challenges in terms of gender equality or things like that in terms of workplace, if we can talk about workplace, because it's my workplace.
Yes.
But mostly because I put myself in spaces that allowed me to express myself as a woman, and I interacted with people that understood the importance of women being empowered through music and all of that. But so yes, some of the challenges that I did face, though, weren't necessarily accentuated. They weren't obvious. It was more of little things like putting me into a box and making me, and people kind of making little comments like, you should dress like this because you're a woman, you're a girl. You should talk like this. You should write songs about this. You should, be this type of way. And so it was more of people trying to curate what I should do as an artist and a creative, which is not what artists or creatives are meant to be. And all of that, I realize, is because I am a girl, because I don't hear my fellow male artists going through that same situation as much. And so some of the challenges were mainly those of people trying to push me into situations that I didn't feel comfortable with. But because, like I said, I came into the industry with a vision and a mission, I found a way to kind of push that to the side and create my own environment that allowed me to blossom into whatever I'm trying to get to. And I think that's actually the important thing, is to create these spaces, which is something that I'm trying to do right now, is to create spaces for young women, young artists, or wannabe artists to come together as women and create our own platforms, create our own, music, safe spaces for us to actually experiment and feel nurtured and supported with each other, because I feel like that's where we go wrong when it comes to, especially in the creative world, is there's this thing of, it's in all over the world, but there's this thing of always pinning women against each other and creating this sort of hateful competitiveness that I think is unnecessary. And so I feel like this is when it comes to gender equality, I think it starts from within. It starts from us and us coming together and creating those spaces for ourselves, and not proving because we have nothing to prove, but showing that, or like kind of inciting that kind of mindset of, oh, these people are capable of, I mean, it's ridiculous to have to say it, but it's true that most of the times they don't believe that we are capable of doing these things, whether you're a mother or, because I feel like if you're a mother, you can still become an artist. But some people are like, oh, once you give birth and you have a child, oh, your career is over. And so it's challenging, and I feel like I'm learning as I go because I'm still very new in terms of all of that. But I feel like I have faith and I have hope in things kind of developing and becoming better for us in general.
Interesting. Brenna, do you want to weigh in before we go to a next question?
Yeah. Today, you notice I don't have a notebook.
You don't have notes to take. It's coming out naturally.
Yeah, so I'm going to speak from my heart, from the bottom of my heart. Two things. One, promoting women's rights is big business as we speak today. And there's a problem with that because you have all sorts of initiatives around promoting women's rights. But when you look at what they're actually doing, there's nothing on the ground that is changing in terms of tangible results. So for me, the beginning point has to be getting the programming right for women empowerment. Because you have suddenly people who will say, oh, on the board, we need a woman, otherwise we look bad. And then they will get probably the most incompetent person, a female, and just place them on the board. And then when board discussions come up, then they'll be saying, you see that woman, she's useless. And then it creates a certain impression of women. It undermines the potential of competent women. That is one example. Two, you will have, in the workplace, you will have all sorts of promotions just for the sake of it. When these women are not
capable.
Yeah, when they're not. And what that does actually in the workplace is undermine real potential, because companies are struggling to look good, so they are looking for talent. Where do I think the solution lies? One, it begins in our homes. How you raise both girls and boys. One, the qualities that they are talking about, confidence, negotiating, this all begins during your childhood. If you're not taught as a young girl to be able to speak up, if you're not taught to be able to question, if you're not empowered as a young girl to be able to express yourself, it doesn't matter what you get later on the table in life. You know, so for me, there has to be a lot of focus on the home. You know, how you raise boys and girls. Are you raising boys that will always think about women and respect them and feel that these women have the potential? Or you meet them later in life and they will actually think that they're doing them a favor, you know, because it is politically correct to have women, you know, represented. The other element I wanted to talk about is what she spoke about. She's a young artist, she's female, and, you know, people keep asking her all sorts of questions about what can you do for women, or how do you feel, which is distracting. And I think many women who try to make it in different fields have the same challenge. You know, people keep asking you, oh, tell us about your experience, tell us, and they don't realize that it's destructive, because then you're going to suddenly turn into an activist, which you're not. You know, instead of focusing on your job.
And your individual strengths.
Yes. And so suddenly you're invited to all sorts of conferences, you give inspirational talks, and it's destructive. 1 year down the road, when people assess your career, have you grown or made progress, there's nothing tangible, because you spent so much time in conferences giving inspirational talks. Yet, there are people who have budgets to do that. So for me, I think it's critical that, one, we go back and look at the family structure and look at how we are raising boys and girls. And two, the distraction around women who try to make it should stop.
That's very interesting about the distraction. There's an anecdote I'd like to share. I read it some time back, and it's quite interesting. I think she's a Kenyan sort of media personality, and her friends were having lunch and they were talking about different things. And I think they were all married or maybe had children, but were not necessarily married. And I think most of them were single. But an older lady on the next table heard them, and she walked up to them and said, My dear daughters, you have been talking and you have very interesting points. You all seem very intelligent, very well put together. But it makes me sad that, none of you have husbands. How were you guys raised? And one of the ladies said, okay, fair enough. That's fine. But did you raise a son who would actually become someone's husband? And this goes back to what you're saying. We start raising women to become wives from the get-go. But are we also raising young boys to actually, be good husbands when the time comes to actually value women and so forth and so on? So I found her response very interesting. And I'd also like to touch on something before we go to the next question, to do with empowerment. This distracting thing you're talking about, there's talk in certain circles globally in this particular field whereby they say the word empowerment is actually, it undermines the whole concept, because empowerment means that you need to be given power by someone who actually has the power. Whether it's a patriarchal system, whether it's... So people are actually even debating the word empowerment. If I need to be empowered, it means I'm sort of a victim, I have no power, and I will not give it to myself. Someone else who wields the power will give it to me. What do you think about that?
I think it's true.
Yes.
I think it's true, but then we have to give it context.
Yes.
I mean, where is it coming from? Women empowerment has its roots in, trying to address patriarchy, and there's no way you're going to talk about creating opportunities for women without addressing underlying issues that have made it impossible for them.
Yes.
So yes, on one hand, you can understand that saying empowerment may be misleading, but the reality is, to deal with patriarchy, you actually have to come up with deliberate measures to address some of these historical, imbalances, to enable these women to take up these opportunities. And even some of the things you talked about regarding how women are raised to be wives. Yes, they are raised to be wives, but are they empowered wives? Most of the time, no.
Yeah, then I think somehow they are true. I remember one of our supporter, Donna, was really didn't want us to use the word empowerment
yes.
into the proposals, into our project, even to titles of our staff. I mean, I agree. It's really, we can talk about women development because women are developing. It's a good word, but what is behind is the most important. And we need to recognize that women have been really left behind and that they are suffering challenges. And we should not be afraid of telling the truth that they have several issues that men do not experience. So we need really to do some steps when we are talking about empowerment. It's all those things that we need to do really to take them and give them a hand. So yeah, shortly is that. It's not a good word, but what are we doing and what is in behind that? It's the most important.
Interesting. I would like us to go to our next section of the conversation, which is to do with economic empowerment for women in rural areas in Rwanda. I feel sometimes whenever we have these discussions, this is a segment that people kind of just superficially, gloss over. They just superficially touch. So we know that, the agricultural sector accounts for the third of Rwanda's GDP, and 76% of economically active women are engaged in farming activities. But yet they don't have the same access to markets, the same access to land, the same access to, production inputs, and so have you, as men do. My question, therefore, and I'll start with you, Dr. Monique, this mindset and reality doesn't reflect our achievements, on the global stage. When it comes to, I feel like I can call them, the soldiers that are driving our economy forward, which is in the agricultural sector. And then in the agricultural sector, they're the ones doing the most. There's the gender parity, as you said, and equality is not there. It hasn't trickled down. What is your take on efforts to address this?
It's true, we have to make efforts to improve on the situation especially for the rural woman, but also the woman working in the informal sector.
Yes.
There are things that have been done. I would say, if you talk, for instance, of policies on land, giving them equal access than their husbands. Yeah, but we need to go beyond that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, for instance, when you take that example of land, and having access is one thing, but using that is another. When, for instance, you look at how much or how often women would use that piece of land as a collateral, you find that they tend to still seek for permission. Yeah, informal permission. It's not
From
like from their husbands.
Yes,
or they just think this is not my thing, I don't touch on it, even when her husband didn't really kind of object to that. So for the time being, really focusing on the real sector, the productive sectors, I think it's key. And at this age, if we are not careful as to how much exposure we are giving women to new technologies, we are standing a good or a big likelihood that the gap is going to increase. I can give just one example. When we talk of access to finance, for instance, the data we have from the financial sector, especially on the usage of digital financial services, we find that women tend to lag behind literally on each and every service that is coming up that is using mobile technology or digital channels, except for, of course, on mobile payments. But when you talk of internet banking, when you talk of mobile banking, when you talk of investing using these channels, you know, government has come up with programs that are promoting savings using digital channels. You tend to find women literally scoring less than 30%. And that's an indication of what we need to do if we have to claim this closing of the gender gaps there and doing it in a sustainable manner. Really, technology is key. In agriculture, technology is really doing wonders. You can have information on when to plant, what to plant, the inputs, and so on and so forth. We are seeing really government and different stakeholders bringing that closer to the people, but we have to watch how much gap is being created by that. So we really still have to focus on this, and the private sector has always a role to play, and in that, having strategies for, say, big companies or big investors to also come up with business models that can create space for women. For women are known for really being loyal, women for really being focused. However, they are risk averse.
Yes.
They tend really not to kind of jump onto things like as quickly as men do. So, but whatever they can do, they can focus on it very well. I was reading an article recently by the IMF, and this article was discussing that governments really lose in terms of not having gender equality, something that can range from 10 to 30% of their GDPs.
Yes.
But the study was also saying that actually it can even be higher percentages when we consider the new types of jobs in this new era, which really demand some of the qualifications or the capabilities women are good at. So the more you really tend to have them excluded, the bigger the opportunity you're losing. So a lot has really still to be done,
Yes.
but building on the good foundation, good policies, good doing business environment, and other conditions that have been already created.
Thank you. Antoinette?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I mean, I will refer to our model, what we do at Women for Women, because this is the core of our business. We really do empower women in the rural areas, so the most poor.
I think you've worked with 76,000 women.
Yeah, more than that. Yeah,
yes,
more
so
than
far.
that. So far, and with their families, we're really reaching more than 1 million in Rwanda since '97. And our program is really based on an integrated model, because we are convinced that to be able to produce or to be an economic player, a woman has first to build the self-confidence. So we do provide skills, life skills, like rights, what are your rights? We provide skills on reproductive health, basic skills on, networking, working with other women. This is a basic. So the women really feel that she can now go into production, but we combine with business skill training. So we provide even advanced business plan training for women. So that they know to draft a small proposal of a project that they can send to a bank. The program also bank every woman who is participating is banked. She has a bank account, and we do also village saving, what Dr. Monique is referring to. We have village savings, but also we link the village savings to the banks, like SACCOs and other financial institutions. In top of that, we provide the vocational skills. We provide startups. And I can say that more than 60% of the women were involved in agriculture, but we are reducing that number. We know that land is not enough in Rwanda. The demographics are high. It's a problem for women, but also for men. It's a general problem for the family. So, but what we do, like in agribusiness training, we provide her capacity to know how to use the small land. It's not only a question of having a small land, but how does she prepare the land for cultivation? How does she get good seeds? How does she get fertilizers so that she can really produce for maximum from that small land? But we also encourage women to work in cooperatives, and we have very good experience of working with like local government to provide big land, like a group of women would get 5 hectares or 10 hectares that an individual woman will not access. So we advocate with the women, and the district are able to provide some good lands. So there are very, very good results. In fact, at enrollment, the woman gets like around 500. That's the best one. And at end line, it's like 3 or 4 times the income that she gets when she entered the program. And then we also do other processes like linkages to market. So we have some groups which are actually like exporting French beans. From being very poor, they are into the value chain. And through private sector, actually we have some group which are exporting like stevia. I don't know if you it's the sugar. Swiss, it's a sweetener. And also French beans, for example. Some are adding value and making juice. And they are into beekeeping that they used to do. Another thing I wanted really to mention, because agriculture will not be sufficient for women, they need also to be involved in other vocations. So we are diversifying, because all of them will not be employed in that sector. So we need also to think about other sectors that they use not to work in, like tourism, like we have women who are into construction, like construction, painting, some groups of women painting. Some into housekeeping. So we need to really reflect and see what are other opportunities depending on where they are living, how they can access other jobs that they never used to traditionally. So we need to know that really saving is very key. It's the best way of sustaining.
Because you have financial autonomy.
Yes, you have financial autonomy, but also we teach women to save for a purpose. If she had a purpose of buying a land or a house, she will save $80 a month. It's just incredible. So women are very, very hardworking. But we only need to give them opportunities. That's a key word. Give opportunity to those women, and this model will work. So we need to replicate and do more on that sense, that we give women opportunity, because they are really very, very hardworking, and they are contributing very much to raise their families and into the country economy.
I'd just like to quote a statistics from, this is the 2016 Africa Human Development Report, and it estimated, and I'm echoing your words, Dr. Monique, it estimated the economic cost of gender gaps in the labor market between 2010 and 2014 in sub-Saharan Africa were nearly 95 billion. In alone. This is the equivalent of 6% of Africa's GDP, just because of these gender gaps. It doesn't make economical sense to continue on this path of deliberate, gender inequality. Do you want to weigh in on economic empowerment?
Of course, it doesn't make economic sense.
Yes.
And we all know it. And listening to them, clearly, there are lots of opportunities for women. But the problem is, if you look at the uptake, even when you have initiatives where, for instance, government will say there are guarantee funds for women, the uptake is always a problem. Where you have some women actually go and take up the loans, most of the time you'll find that behind the scenes, it's the husband telling her, you go and get $1 million. And she will do exactly that. Go get the 1 million and give it to the husband. Now, when they do the statistics, on the face of it, they've dispersed maybe 10 million to women. But in reality, yes, is very different. And which, for me, goes back to the fundamental issue of what kind of women are we talking about? If we catch them very late, already their understanding of taking up opportunities is very different, and it's a problem to change the mindset, to say you have a right to oppose your husband. You have a right to say no to this. You have a right to negotiate this. We need to catch them when they're very young.
Exactly.
Go back to primary.
Yes.
If you look at most of the initiatives, they are targeting women who are, on average, probably 30 and above. And I'm saying, no, we need to go back and catch them when they're really little, when they're really young. Because it doesn't matter. If you make the opportunities available, most of these women will still be reluctant to take them up. That is one. Two, there are some fundamental issues that have, for some reason, even when there's a lot of talk around empowerment, that make it impossible for women to take up opportunities. For instance, if we look at how long women are expected to return to work after maternity leave.
Yes.
Most women will tell you they feel guilty leaving their babies behind. They are going to workplaces with no nursing areas. So you tell me you're spending a lot of money saying women must be in the workplace.
Yes.
But the conditions there are impossible.
We're now talking of ECDs in the workplace, and I think it's a good move, and we should really explore opportunities of how you create those safe spaces, places in the workplace, so that you can really support that. Because, it's a privilege that women have really to be bringing real life through having babies and nurturing them. And they shouldn't be penalized for that.
Absolutely.
So it's a good policy. We are talking about it. We are seeing ways and means of how you can deliver that in the workplace, but I think it's a good thing that can address part of
I wonder if this will also, one of the things, and I don't think we have time for it, but I wanted to touch on it, is that penalization of maternity leave and the implications it has financially on women, and also child rearing and family upbringing and what have you. And people, some of these forums that I've attended were saying the paternity leave is something that really needs to be seriously discussed. You have countries like Sweden and these European countries that have remarkable outcomes when men are actually involved in this particular field. Paternity leave for men should either be extended or, deliberate. I'd like us to go to the last part of the conversation, which is, on a lighter note, can women have it all? That's the topic of tonight's discussion. And I want to quote a 2014 conversation by the CEO of PepsiCo, Indra K. Nui. I find her very interesting. And she said that women can't have it all. That was the basis of her discussion. And worldwide, you know, women are often the primary giver, the primary parent, the primary caregiver, and they don't have time to balance careers, family, personal growth, and so have you. Do you agree with Indra Nui when she said, and briefly from you before we go to social media, when she said women can't have it all? Do you agree we can't, or do we even have to have it all in the first place?
I think I disagree with her. One, because hearing what she was kind of sharing.
Yes. You watched the clip as well?
Yeah, I did, of course. It's a famous one.
It's a famous one, yes.
I found that she rather manages well. So it's like, actually, she can be a model for me. Yeah. The topics she was raising in terms of her, speaking of really having her husband on the list, still, and the babies and
the
what,
milk.
and the milk. I think she's trying. But I think this discussion, when you look at it closer, you wonder who actually can have it perfectly all. Even men can't, if you go by her argument. Yeah, because we also need to feature somewhere, somehow in their agenda. Yeah, but we don't have a choice as women. We can be mothers, we can be sisters, we can be wives, and we can be professional and really successful at what we are doing. It's just a matter of what you put in your brain and the environment that you're working in that is helping you. And she mentioned something like really coping mechanism.
And involving a support system.
And involving the support system.
Yes,
and I think that ingenuity we should be having and really know how you negotiate around so that you can really be fulfilled. Because you can't have a choice of choosing really one and letting the other go.
Yes.
Yeah.
Angel, I would like you to weigh in on this. I don't know if it still applies to you. I think, you know, we're talking, our guests here are really multifaceted. They're mothers, they're wives. I think for you, you're yet to get there. But what do you think about this whole balance work-life thing?
Personally, I feel like she was mentioning, it's something that's very possible, but I personally think it's choice. I think that you can choose to have it all. You can choose to do something like just be like, okay, I'm going to focus on my career. I'm going to focus on my family. I think it's just about choice as women. And so I don't know if I agree with the statement, but I feel like it depends on the person. It depends on the situation and the woman herself and what she wants in life. But yeah, so I don't know. I'm not really against it or for it. Yeah.
Brenna, very quickly.
Very quickly, I think it depends on what you want to define you.
Yes.
You know, if you want to be defined by motherhood, then you will have it all.
Yes.
You know,
exactly.
If you want to be defined as a career woman?
Yes, yes.
Exactly.
That's
so
one.
your choices, I think you're both saying the same.
I feel that women have to be given that space and that choice to choose. As it is today, if a woman makes the choice to be a career woman, society is not accepting of that choice.
Yes.
3, I think the environment has to change. If there are any women that aspire to have it all in the version of how society wants, will probably look at, you have it all. You know, you cannot have it all when you're doing twice what probably the male or a man will do.
Yes.
You know, you have a day job, then you go back home.
Which is a full-time job.
Yes, you're expected to be in the kitchen. You're supposed to check with the kids, do homework. It's impossible. Yeah.
Interesting. Antoinette, briefly, what's your take on that?
I mean, I agree that it's a matter of choices, but I think it's really a question also of balancing. So you can try really as a woman to have like 90% maybe successful career woman, 90% or 80% successful mother, and also think about yourself because it's a question of balancing. And I think all of us, personally, I I didn't ask so much question because it's a question of like taking decision, and key decision is some point of your life. You say, okay, I have this kid and this kid. If I have the next one, I will not do this course. I will not go. I will not apply for this position at this time. Maybe I need to space, for example, the kids.
So it comes down to choices. I think.
Yeah,
that's what
yeah,
they're
you
also
choose.
saying.
But
Yes.
I agree. You cannot have like 100 perfect
Yes.
mother.
Okay,
I know
okay.
sometimes you need to make sacrifice,
Yes.
and the family make sacrifice
Yes.
because sometimes they want you to be home,
Yes.
but they have to leave you go and do something. And I mean, yeah, agree with compromise with the family and sharing responsibilities.
Yes.
Yeah.
Brenna, very quickly.
Very briefly,
Yeah.
on the issue of balance, I think it's difficult to have balance in a place where the ground is not leveled.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's
Start
first
with the
address,
leveling.
yes, let's
just
first level it.
Quickly read
Yeah, and then
a
we can
couple
talk
of
about
tweets before we
The
close.
balance like when you're standing.
A couple of tweets before we close this show. And our first tweet is from someone called Mugabo Rugiliriza. And he says, Brenna's first point hit the spot, figuratively speaking. The need for the token woman candidate filler more times than not is retrogressive both to society and overall gender rights. Politics over meritocracy. So basically, they're echoing the whole concept of, have capable women. At the time of just filling up quotas in affirmative action, it doesn't, in the long run, it doesn't help society as well. Our last tweet for today is from Mugabe Charles, and Mugabe says that a great choice of topic you made here. Well, women can definitely have it all, especially in a country like Rwanda. Women are working so hard to cover the gaps of the past. Look positive, confidence, self-independence, and more great achievements. There's still challenges. So I was hoping that we'd have tweets from women, but unfortunately, that didn't come through. But thank you very much. I'd just like to have closing remarks very briefly from our guests on this topic, work-life balance in general. And actually, if I can end with asking you, what is some of the most inspiring quotes you've been told or advice you've been given in this regard? Briefly.
Oh, my best one is really about the quality rather than quantity. Like how much little time you might be having left, because you have to really look at different things, travel a lot, and so on and so forth. Think about how you make time, you create that time, and quality time for your family and for yourself. It might be this short, but deep, full of love and care, and they will equally feel satisfied because they know that you're really very busy, but they will appreciate the quality and intensity you put into really the little time you might have.
Antoinette, very briefly, best advice you've gotten?
Yeah, it's really, allow me to say that as a believer that I have no control for everything, but God can also. We pray for our kids and for our family. Some part is being to be filled by God, but also by our friends. Even like my kids are really, really very supportive, the husband, my sisters. So to really count on other people to support, but also know that somehow you have someone who's there looking into your business and your family.
Thank you. Angel?
What I would say is something I learned very recently is to always be kind to yourself.
Yes.
And to be kind to yourself, period. And I think that that's something that we tend, especially as women, to forget because we are told so many things and put so many things in our heads. So we forget to think about ourselves and take care of ourselves. So that's something that I would say.
Thank you, Angel. Very briefly.
Two things. One, I think as a woman, if you make a choice, it's your choice. You don't have to defend it. It's your choice. As long as you're comfortable with it, no need to explain, apologize. It is your choice. We need that. And two, I think we need to be comfortable with, you don't have to have it all.
That's true.
Yeah,
That's
you don't have
true.
to have it all.
Lots of pressure, and I think we're also our own harshest critics, like you said. Well, thank you very much, Dr. Monique, Antoinette, Berna, and Angel. It was a pleasure having you. I feel like there's part 2 of this conversation waiting, waiting to happen. Thank you for watching. Thank you for joining us. I'd like to thank our partners, Uzi Collections and Bourbon Coffee. We were really big on promoting Made in Rwanda. Thank you. Please keep the conversation going on our Twitter feed using #TheSquareRW. Thank you for watching and have a good night. See you next week.